Imagine for a second that you are looking at a map of the world. What do you see at the very bottom? A white spot. We were taught from childhood that Antarctica is a nature reserve, a place for scientists, penguins, and polar heroes. No man's land where peace and science reign. That is a lie. The biggest and most expensive lie in modern geography. While you are watching news about Taiwan, Ukraine, or the Middle East, the real sharks of geopolitics are staring at the South Pole. Why? Because that is where the things that start world wars are buried. Oil, gas, rare earth metals, and the most valuable resource of the 21st century, fresh water. In 1959, world powers signed a treaty to freeze this continent. They promised not to divide it, but that treaty has an expiration date, and the clock is ticking. Today, we are not talking about ice. We are talking about the biggest heist in human history, which is being prepared right before your eyes. Welcome to Cold War 2.0. To understand the future, you need to go back to the past. 1959, the height of the Cold War. The United States and the Soviet Union realized that if they start carving up Antarctica, a nuclear war will begin. So they came up with a genius solution, the Antarctic Treaty. The essence is simple. Rule number 1, no military bases. Rule number 2, no resource extraction. Rule number 3, the land belongs to no one and everyone at once. Sounds like a utopia, right? But there is a catch. The treaty did not cancel territorial claims. It just put them on pause. Look at the map. This is not a pizza. These are zones of influence. 7 countries officially consider pieces of Antarctica their territory. Chile and Argentina even overlap each other. But the main players, the US, Russia, and China, have not officially declared claims. Instead, they have reserved the right to do so at any moment. It's like sitting at a poker table and not making bets, but holding a loaded gun under the table. Let's talk about the date that keeps Pentagon strategists awake at night. 2048. In 22 years, the Madrid Protocol, the piece of paper that bans mining in Antarctica, comes up for review. There is less time left until this date than has passed since the release of the first iPhone. The clock is ticking louder than you think. Officially, nations say they are there for science. But let's be honest, when you send a ship equipped with seismic air guns to blast sound waves into the ocean floor, you are not looking for krill. You are not looking for climate data. You are looking for structural traps. You are looking for reservoirs. You are auditing the books before the hostile takeover begins. Geology knows no borders. Look at the map of Gondwana, the ancient supercontinent. The same geological formations that hold the massive oil fields of South America and Australia slide directly under the Antarctic ice shelf. It is the same rock. It holds the same riches. Let's look at the smoking gun. In 2020, Rosgeo, the Russian state geological explorer, conducted massive seismic studies in the Riser-Larsen Sea and the Weddell Sea. They didn't just find signs of oil. They announced a number that shook the energy markets. 500 billion barrels. Let me put that number in perspective for you. That is almost double the proven reserves of Saudi Arabia. It is nearly twice the reserves of Venezuela. It is enough oil to power the entire global economy for decades. In financial terms, we are talking about an asset class worth over $40 trillion sitting unclaimed at the bottom of the world. Do you really think the world's superpowers are spending billions on icebreakers just to take pictures of penguins? No, they are positioning themselves to secure the world's ultimate Plan B. Skeptics will say, It's too cold. It's too expensive. The technology doesn't exist. That is exactly what they said about drilling in the North Sea in the 1960s. That is what they said about shale oil in the 2000s. And look where we are now. Technology does not stand still. Look at the Arctic. Look at the Yamal LNG project in Russia. Look at Norway's Barents Sea platforms. We are already drilling in the ice. We are already laying pipes in freezing waters. The engineering challenges are solvable. It is just a math problem. Right now, extracting Antarctic oil might cost $100 a barrel. But what happens when the easy oil in the Middle East runs dry? What happens when a war closes the Strait of Hormuz? When oil hits $150 or $200 a barrel, the ice doesn't matter anymore. Greed melts the ice faster than global warming ever could. Russia knows this. China knows this. The United States knows this. That is why they are not claiming sovereignty yet. They are waiting. They are mapping the seabed. They are calculating the yields. They are preparing the legal arguments for 2048. In the world of ruthless capitalism, possession is 9/10 of the law. And if you have a resource worth $40 trillion but no army to protect it, you are not the owner. You are just a temporary watchman. And the watchman's shift is about to end. But oil is a 20th century resource, dirty, heavy, and slowly dying. Smart money, the real visionary capital, is looking at the 22nd century resource, water. Antarctica holds 70% of the planet's fresh water locked in its ice cap. 7, 0. Let that sink in. While India destroys its water table, while China's rivers run dry, and while Africa faces perpetual drought, a frozen bank lies in the south. In the world of finance, we call this a distressed asset arbitrage. The world is thirsty, and Antarctica is the only bottle left. Projects already exist to tow massive icebergs to the UAE or South Africa. Before, this was considered science fiction. Today, it is a legitimate business plan attracting venture capital. One average iceberg towed to the coast of Cape Town can provide fresh water to a city of 1 million people for an entire year. In a world where water will eventually cost more than gasoline, Antarctica is not just a continent, it is the planet's main safe deposit box. And every major power wants the master key. So, how do you seize a continent without declaring war? How do you invade without firing a shot? You build a scientific station. Look at China. They are playing the long game perfectly. They already have 5 stations. The latest one, Qinling, opened in 2024. It is located in a strategically ideal point overlooking the Ross Sea. Officially, they are there to study ice cores, stars, and penguins. Unofficially, Western intelligence services are sounding the alarm. These stations are stuffed with high-tech radars and satellite tracking systems. Why does that matter? Because polar orbits are the most critical orbits for military spy satellites. If you control the ground stations in Antarctica, you control the data flow from space. These are dual-use technologies. A radar that tracks weather balloons can also track ballistic missiles. A polar station is the perfect camouflage. The military officers there don't wear epaulets, they wear red down jackets. They listen not only to the sounds of space, but also to submarine communications in the Southern Ocean. China is actively building dual-use infrastructure. Airfields capable of landing heavy cargo planes, deep water ports for research vessels that look suspiciously like naval support ships. They are creating a polar Silk Road. Russia is not lagging behind either. They are restoring Soviet-era bases, drilling the deepest holes in the ice at Lake Vostok, and loudly declaring their historical rights as the original discoverers of the continent. It is a game of monopoly in real life. Whoever builds a hotel on the most expensive square first collects the rent for the next century. There is another reason why military strategists look south with fear. Logistics, the bloodstream of the global economy. The Panama Canal is drying up due to climate change and drought. Ships are waiting weeks to cross. The Suez Canal is vulnerable. One ship stuck sideways, or one terrorist attack, and global trade stops. We saw it happen. We know how fragile the system is. If a global conflict begins, say in the Pacific, and these canals are blocked or destroyed, the world fleet will have only one path left to get from the Atlantic to the Pacific Ocean: the Drake Passage. It is a narrow, stormy bottleneck between the tip of South America and the Antarctic Peninsula. Historically, it is a graveyard for ships. Strategically, it is the most important backup artery of world trade. Whoever controls the Antarctic Peninsula controls the Drake Passage. And whoever controls the passage controls the movement of the U.S. Navy and the Chinese merchant fleet in times of war. It is not just ice and rocks. It is a question of survival. But the battle is not just on the water. It is happening in the courtroom. Right now, nations are submitting detailed scientific claims to the UN Commission on the limits of the continental shelf. Australia claims 42% of the continent based on their underwater shelf. Russia is expanding its mapping missions to claim vast underwater territories. China is pushing for a global governance model, which sounds nice and democratic, but in reality, it means, let us in, we have the money to develop this. The legal framework holding this together is fragile. It is a piece of paper from 1959. It relies on the premise that no major power will break the rules. But look around you. In the last 5 years, international law has become a suggestion, not a rule. We have seen invasions, trade wars, and broken treaties. What happens when Beijing decides it needs that oil to fuel its economy? What happens when Washington decides it needs that water for its allies? Or when Moscow decides it needs that strategic control for its nuclear submarines? Paper treaties do not stop tanks, and they certainly do not stop bulldozers. We are used to thinking that world maps are final, that borders are set in stone. This is an illusion. History never ended. It just froze for a while. Antarctica is the last piece of pie on the table, and the silverware is already taken. 2048 seems far away to you. You think you will be old, or it won't matter. But in geopolitics, 2048 is tomorrow morning. Planning for a resource war takes decades. Building the infrastructure to win it takes even longer. Countries do not spend billions of dollars on studying the mating habits of penguins. They spend billions on exploring the geological depths. They spend billions on building deep-water ports capable of hosting warships. They spend billions on planting flags on frozen ground to say, "I was here first." This is not a battle for science. It never was. This is a battle for assets. It is the final colonial scramble of our species. And when the ice melts, and it will melt, whether by climate change or by industry, we will not see bare land. We will see a battlefield. The question is not whether the carving up will begin. The question is which piece will go to the winners, and which scraps will be left for the rest. The Forbidden Continent is about to open for business, and the price of admission is not a visa. The price of admission is power. Subscribe to the channel. Here they speak the truth about money and power that cannot be bought. See you in the next one.